On Easter Monday, the Vatican announced the death of the much-loved head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis. What happens now? After the funeral, the cardinals will process to the Sistine Chapel, take an oath of discretion, and, behind closed doors, elect a new pope. In a secret ballot, the twice-folded ballots are placed in urns and counted until a two-thirds majority is reached. The burning of ballots signals the process to the world. Black smoke means another round of voting has to happen. White smoke means a new pope has been elected. The senior cardinal deacon will walk out onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica with the newly elected pope and say, Habemus Papam, we have a pope, and introduce the new pope with his papal name. On the show today, it's all about allergies, the US-China trade war, and Barbecue Nation opens in Sri Lanka. Kaleidoscope is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Remember to subscribe, follow, and like us for more. Thank you to our wonderful partners of the show, Selico Live, CDB, and The Daily Morning. You constantly inspire us.
She wins with CDB Wings, exclusive financial solutions for women.
Looking back at the week that was on CDB Snapshot, Sri Lanka's overall inflation rises to negative 1.9% in March from February's negative 3.9%. Worker remittances in March reached $693.3 million US dollars. The European Union extends GSV Plus trade benefits until 2027 to Sri Lanka. Chinese robots run against humans in a half marathon and lose by a mile. There's a new word in the dictionary, Gigil. It's a word you can use to describe overwhelming cuteness.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Welcome to Srilanka Life News Capsule. The trade war between the US and China is escalating. China is the world's second largest economy, accounting for 30% of global manufacturing and a GDP of 17 trillion US dollars. And in 2024, the trade deficit between the US and China, in favor of China, of course, was 295 billion US dollars on goods. With us today is Emeritus Professor at Cambridge and Professor at Zhejiang University, Gehan Amaratunga, who lives and works in China. He joins us online from Hangzhou. What are you seeing of this trade war with this tit-for-tat between China and the US?
Expected that, like in 2018 when Trump was there, that he'll impose tariffs, but they'll be much more severe this time. And of course, it's impacted China because they have a large trade surplus with the United States. However, I don't think they're going to react in terms of caving in to the U.S. demands. They will try to start to negotiate, but I think the negotiating position at the moment is frozen because the tariffs were put unilaterally, right up to 125%, and now it's up to 245%. China hasn't reacted. They didn't react when the tariffs were at 30%, and I think that was a window for negotiation. But when it started going up to 50%, then they reacted as well. So right now it's a sort of face-off, I think, is what you see.
So having seen President Trump backtrack on the tariffs on smartphones and computers, do you see more backtracking taking place?
A lot of Chinese goods go via Vietnam, Malaysia, and Cambodia. That's where she's visiting right now. And those have a 90-day moratorium. So they will get into deals with the U.S. and maybe have some tariff rates which are agreed, which will be way below the 245%. And that may be the face-saving gesture where the U.S. takes Chinese goods at a tariff of 20-30%, but via third countries.
In 2024, the US imported a massive $439 billion US dollars worth of goods from China. Can the US afford to put this tariff of 125,000, and now they're talking about something in the 200s on goods from China?
There are consequences to the U.S. in terms of with the prices. But if they start a trade war, they're also vulnerable because they had this, huge debt. And as you saw, the bond yield went up all the way to 4.5%. And that was not by China, interestingly, selling U.S. bonds, but it appears now it was Canada, Japan, and some European countries which reacted to Trump's tariffs by selling U.S. bonds. And then the yields went up. And then he had to adjust, give the 90-day pause, and take off these tariffs on the electronic goods. That's partly to save Nvidia and Apple, of course. But so it's a two-way street. The U.S. is also vulnerable, not just in terms of the trade deficit. If they cut their market off, then people may not want to keep dollars, and they'll start dumping their bonds, and then there are consequences. So everybody's in an embrace, and they have to somehow learn how to live together. I think, perhaps with an adjustment, a readjustment of the situation.
Where do you think this trade war is heading?
There are going to be unseen consequences. One of those, I think, is that the United States is going to become more isolated, perhaps in Asia. On the other hand, the U.S. will try to disconnect a lot of countries from Chinese influence, especially perhaps also in Latin America and Africa. So I think the world is most probably going to split or based on this sort of trading to sort of political camps as well.
Here's what's up with the markets this week. At the Colombo Stock Exchange, the All-Share Price Index finally stabilized, although turnover levels remained low with waning investor interest. After falling for 3 weeks, oil prices finally move up between $64 and $65 per barrel due to new sanctions on Iran, an OPEC Plus production decline, and a decline in U.S. oil inventories. Spot gold hit all-time highs of $3,500 per ounce, but then fell to $3,350 when President Trump retracted his threats to dismiss Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell and expressed optimism for a trade deal with China. The picturesque Kuchchaveli beach, with its beautiful blend of beach and jungle just 21 kilometers from Nilavali, will soon have its own beach resorts. The SLTDA has secured over 10 investors to develop this area. Something little spoken about but posing significant health concerns are allergies and immune system disorders. About 30 to 40% of the world's population is affected by allergic conditions, and asthma, a very common immune-related condition, affects about 81 million children worldwide. On Let's Talk today is Professor Suranjit Seneviratne, a distinguished expert in allergology and immunology, a consultant in clinical immunology and allergy at the Royal Free Hospital and University College London, and he directs the Centre for Mast Cell Disorders. Additionally, he is the president of the UK Sri Lanka Immunology Foundation, contributing significantly to immunology education in Sri Lanka. So what has contributed significantly to the increase in both allergies and immune disorders?
The lifestyle factors are the most important thing, because when I went over to the UK in 1999, when I went to do my PhD, if ever I offered to do a talk on allergic disorders or autoimmune disorders at that time, everyone said, no, that's not a big problem in Sri Lanka. And then our lifestyle changed. It turned from a sort of where children were getting out, running around, not always traveling by car. They were eating properly, eating at home. You have got into apartments, small gardens, ACs coming, windows are closed. So a whole range of factors have contributed to this increase in allergy.
What role does genetic predisposition play in the development of autoimmune diseases?
Like any condition like autoimmune or allergic disorders, genetics definitely comes in. So if you have a parent or two parents who has an allergic or autoimmune disease, definitely it has a contribution towards the child getting the allergic autoimmune disease. But in addition, it's a combination of genetic characteristics together with environmental factor. That interaction is important. But the environment can alter some other elements in the gene. That is, we use this term called epigenetics. It's just technical, but the gene, the way it behaves, can be affected by the environment. So it's a combination of the two.
An example of that?
I mean, our lifestyles, right? Our lifestyle, the way we live, fast food, etc., can be responsible for changing how the gene behaves. And in a certain environment, when you have an allergen trigger or autoimmune trigger, normally would have not reacted to that. But in this situation with the environment, say, pollution, climate change, etc., coming into the equation, low vitamin D levels, etc., that can affect how the gene behaves.
Or what more needs to be done to improve public awareness, to improve education in allergy prevention and also managing it?
It's people who are dealing with allergy across the board. It's not only doctors, it has to be nurses, it has to be teachers, it has to be a whole range of healthcare person, other people talking about it, talking in a way that people can understand. Because if you come and give the highest flown theory, nobody will understand what is happening. And this is what you should do. What I tell my in clinic, I say, you can't try to prevent your child having any infection because that is not good for the immune system. You have to develop them. You can't. So trying to be too clean is not the ultimate goal in life. That's because you can cause other conditions later on in life.
If you're looking at the allergies that Sri Lankans had, what are the allergies with the highest prevalence?
The thing is that our houses have changed. People are living more confined area and windows are closed. ACs are on. ACs are directly on the bed. Mold is accumulating, dust is accumulating, people are putting carpets, we have the wall-to-wall carpet, and things have really changed. Children are spending long periods of time sitting on settees rather than going out and play. So house dust mite allergy is a big problem. And it's the dust mite that is found in all houses, but what we give advice how to reduce that exposure. Secondly, it is mold allergy, another important allergen that can occur here, and cockroach allergy. So those three are very, very important. When it comes to food allergies, the pattern is different from the UK and here. There we have a lot of peanut allergy. Here it is other legumes and cashew nut, etc. Prawns, crab, sort of fish is another issue. Beef allergy is an issue in Sri Lanka, which we don't see so much there. It is a problem. And that has an influence because when it comes to certain components, it can be present in vaccines. So you have to be careful. So those are the different parts. When it comes to drug allergies, I think penicillin, that group of drug, or NSAIDs. And the important thing is why I always tell patients, don't go to your doctor and say, I am allergic to medicines, because then that doctor doesn't give any medicine. You know what is, let's speak to somebody, discuss it and know what the medicines are, or at least some idea, so that the other alternative drugs can be used at that.
Sri Lanka's very first tabletop barbecue restaurant opened at Colombo city centre recently, showcasing some tantalizing barbecue flavors that have become the toast of Asia. Asia's most celebrated casual dining chain, Barbecue Nation, opened its first outlet in Sri Lanka to much fanfare, replete with starters, mains and desserts, and the very first individual tabletop barbecue for diners to make their own. The live grill at the table concept, which has made Barbecue Nation popular in over 5 countries with over 200 outlets worldwide, is well augmented with an unlimited buffet and a diverse menu, just right for any discerning taste bud. The personalized grilling experience enables diners to grill their own skewers, adding a sense of family or friends getting together in an interactive culinary adventure with unlimited flavors and live food stations. Don't forget the indulgent dessert spread. So, if it's the taste of barbecue you crave, gather your family and friends. It's time to visit Barbecue Nation. And as April comes to an end, here's a reminder to cool down, beat the heat, and watch out for those deadly mozzies. We'll be back next week.